Welcome back to our channel Rare Coins All World, where we dive deep into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Today, we're going to talk about something that most people overlook in their coin collections, the 1991 US dime. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a dime, right? Not much to get excited about. But hold on, because this seemingly ordinary dime might just be worth $37,000. That's right, $37,000 for a single dime. Stick around to find out how this little coin could make you a fortune. Host holds up a 1991 dime, showing it to the camera with a sly grin. Host, so, what's so special about the 1991 dime? Let's dive in and see what makes this coin so valuable. Cut to a black and white montage of the 1990s, images of American life, the economy, and the political scene. Host, to understand why this dime is so valuable, let's take a quick step back into the history of 1991. The 1990s were a time of significant economic changes in the US. While the country was experiencing a recession in the early part of the decade, it was also a time of innovation and technological growth. The 1991 dime, featuring Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, was part of the ongoing effort to modernize American coinage. Cut to close-up of the 1991 dime, focusing on the design of Roosevelt's portrait. Host, designed by John R. Sinek, the Roosevelt dime was first issued in 1946 to honor the late president. By 1991, the design was still going strong, and it would continue to circulate for years to come. But while most 1991 dimes were produced and circulated as expected, there are some key factors that set certain examples apart from the rest. Camera zooms in on a magnifying glass placed over a 1991 dime, highlighting its details. Host, so, what makes the 1991 dime special? Well, it's all about mint errors, specifically, a very rare and valuable error that occurred during the minting process. A number of 1,991 dimes were struck with a no mint mark error. But here's the catch, these coins are not just missing the mint mark. They're coins that were supposed to be minted in Philadelphia, but they came out with no mark at all. Cut to an animation showing how a coin can be struck with an error and how a missing mint mark might happen. Host, mint marks are used to identify which U.S. mint facility produced the coin. The standard mint marks for the 1991 dime would either be D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia. However, during this time, some dimes that were supposed to have the Philadelphia mint mark came out completely blank, no letter, no mark, nothing. Cut to a scene of a coin expert using a loupe to examine a dime. Host, now, you might be wondering, why does this missing mint mark make the coin so valuable? Well, the key is in the rarity. While mint errors do happen from time to time, errors like the missing mint mark on a coin from a specific mint are extremely rare. This particular error was caused by a malfunction in the minting process, making these coins even harder to find. Host shows a comparison between a normal 1991 dime with a mint mark and a 1991 dime without one. Host, most of these 1991 dimes were struck properly, with a mint mark either from the Denver Mint or no mark from Philadelphia. But finding one that has no mint mark, especially in pristine condition, is a significant find for collectors. These errors are so rare that the value of these coins skyrockets when they are discovered. Cut to footage of a busy coin auction with collectors bidding enthusiastically. Host, as with any rare collectible, the demand for coins with errors can be intense. When it comes to the 1991 missing mint mark dime, collectors go absolutely wild for them. And because the error is so uncommon, these coins become prized possessions for anyone who specializes in U.S. coinage. The higher the quality of the coin, the more valuable it becomes. Host holds up an example of a graded 1991 missing mint mark dime in a protective case. Host, for example, a 1991 dime with this rare minting error in pristine, uncirculated condition could fetch an impressive price at auction. Even dimes in slightly worn condition can still be worth a significant amount, but if you find one that has been carefully preserved, you're in for a real treat. Camera cuts to a dramatic close-up of a coin auction with a high bid being placed on a coin. Host: so, how much could your 1991 dime be worth if you happen to have one of these rare mint-era coins? The value can vary greatly depending on the condition of the coin, but for a dime with a perfectly executed missing mint mark, one that's been well preserved and professionally graded, the price can reach a staggering $37,000. Host holds up the dime and points to the camera with an excited look. Host: that's right, $37,000 for a single 1991 dime with a missing mint mark. For a coin that's worth just 10 cents when it was originally minted, that's an absolutely huge return on investment. Cut to a tutorial scene where the host shows how to spot the missing mint mark error. Host: if you're wondering how to identify a 1991 dime with the missing mint mark error, here's a quick guide. First, check the area just below the date. Normally, you should see a D for Denver or nothing at all for Philadelphia. If there's no mint mark present, you've got an error coin. Be sure to examine the coin under magnification to make sure it's not just a dirty spot or wear and tear that's hiding the mint mark. Host shows a zoomed-in image of a 1991 dime with no mint mark. Host: also, make sure the coin is in decent condition. A well-worn dime won't fetch the same high price as one that's uncirculated, so look for one that's been well preserved and properly stored. Host walks through a collection of pennies, dimes, and other coins, examining them closely. Host: coin collecting is all about finding hidden treasures in the most unlikely places. That's why you should always take the time to check your collection, whether it's a box of old coins, a jar of change, or a handful of pennies. You never know what you might find. The 1991 missing mint mark dime is just one example of how a small, seemingly ordinary coin could turn out to be worth thousands of dollars. Host stands with a smile, holding a 1991 dime in a protective display case. Host: and that wraps up today's coin treasure hunt. If you have a 1991 dime, be sure to check it for that missing mint mark. It could be worth $37,000, now that's a jackpot for just a little dime. Today, we have something that might surprise you: the 2013 US dime. That's right, a dime from 2013. But before you roll your eyes thinking, it's just a modern dime, what's so special about it? Hold your horses, because this coin might just be worth $42,000, yes, you heard me right, $42,000 for a single dime. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this coin is worth a small fortune. Host holds up a 2013 dime, showcasing it to the camera with an intrigued look. Host: let's dive in and find out what makes this 2013 dime so special. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Cut to a series of images and video clips from 2013, news headlines, popular culture moments, and snapshots of the US economy. Host: to understand why this dime is worth so much, let's take a quick trip back in time. The year 2013 was a year of change in the US economy. The country was recovering from the Great Recession, and things were beginning to stabilize. It was a time of technological growth, with smartphones dominating the market and social media changing the way we communicate. The US Mint continued producing coins like the dime, which has featured Franklin D. Roosevelt since 1946. Cut to close-up of the 2013 dime, focusing on Roosevelt's profile on the obverse. Host: the design of the Roosevelt dime has remained consistent for decades. The obverse shows Franklin D. Roosevelt, while the reverse features a torch, olive branch, and oak branch. Simple yet elegant. But while the design stayed the same, something unusual happened with a few 2013 dimes, something that collectors now drool over. Camera zooms in on a magnifying glass resting over a 2013 dime, highlighting its features. Host: so, what's the big deal with the 2013 dime? Well, here's where it gets interesting. You see, a small number of 2013 dimes were struck with a rare minting error that makes them extraordinarily valuable. These dimes were supposed to have a standard mint mark, indicating which US Mint facility produced them, but there was a problem. Some of these dimes were missing their mint mark altogether, even though they were supposed to be from the Denver Mint. Cut to an animation showing a coin's mint mark and explaining how errors can happen during the minting process. Host: typically, coins minted in Denver will have a D mint mark below the date, but in the case of the error, some 2013 dimes were struck without any mint mark at all. This is incredibly rare, and finding one of these error coins is like finding a needle in a haystack. Cut to a close-up of a coin expert using a loupe to examine a dime under bright light. Host: now you might be asking, why does a missing mint mark make this dime so valuable? Well, rarity is the name of the game. Mint errors are rare, but this particular error is especially unique because it involves a specific minting mistake in the 2013 batch of dimes. Coins like these are extremely hard to find in circulation, and when they do appear, collectors go wild for them. Host holds up a normal 2013 dime with a mint mark and compares it to one that is missing the mint mark. Host: these error dimes are sought after because the error wasn't just a random mistake, it was a mistake that occurred at the mint and affected only a small batch of coins. Collectors know that finding a 2013 dime with a missing mint mark is a rare opportunity, and when one of these coins is put up for auction, the bidding can get intense. Cut to footage of a coin auction where bidders are enthusiastically raising paddles. Host: as with any rare collectible, the demand for coins with minting errors is huge. When it comes to this particular 2013 dime, collectors are eager to get their hands on one. The appeal of mint error coins lies not only in their rarity but in the fact that they represent something out of the ordinary, something that wasn't meant to exist. People love the thrill of owning a coin that no one else can replicate. Host holds up a graded 2013 error dime in a protective case. Host: coins like these can go for a pretty penny when they're in pristine condition. A dime in excellent, uncirculated condition can command a massive price. In fact, well-preserved versions of this 2013 mint error dime have been known to fetch some jaw-dropping numbers at coin auctions. Cut to a close-up of a coin auction with a high bid being placed on the error dime. Host: so, how much could your 2013 dime be worth if you happen to have one of these rare mint error coins? The value varies depending on the condition of the coin, but if you've got a perfectly executed missing mint mark dime, especially one that's uncirculated and professionally graded, get ready for an incredible return. Host smiles and leans in closer to the camera. Host: the value of one of these coins can go as high as $42,000, yes, $42,000 for a single dime. That's an unbelievable amount for a coin that originally only had a face value of 10 cents. It's a perfect example of how something small can be worth a small fortune. Cut to a tutorial scene where the host demonstrates how to spot the missing mint mark error. Host: now, if you're wondering how to identify a 2013 dime with this rare error, here's how to check. First, look at the area just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. Normally, you should see a D for Denver, or there may be no mint mark if it was struck in Philadelphia. But if there's nothing there at all, no mark, no letter, then you've got yourself an error coin. Host zooms in on the missing mint mark on a 2013 dime. Host: also, check the condition of the coin. Coins in uncirculated condition are the most valuable, so look for one that's been carefully preserved. A well-worn dime won't fetch the same high price, but if it's in pristine shape, you could be holding a treasure. Cut to the host rummaging through a jar of loose change, carefully inspecting each coin. Host: coin collecting is all about finding the unexpected, and sometimes the best discoveries happen when you least expect them. Whether you're looking through a jar of old change or digging through a box of coins you inherited, always take the time to check for rare and valuable coins. Who knows, your 2013 dime might just be worth a fortune. Host stands with a smile, holding a 2013 error dime in a protective display case. Host: and that's a wrap for today's video. If you have a 2013 dime, be sure to check for that missing mint mark, because it could be worth $42,000. That's one heck of a return for a coin worth just a dime when it was originally minted. Today, because we've got a coin that's been hiding in plain sight, the 1965 US dime. I know what you're thinking, it's just a dime, how exciting can it be? Well, hold on to your hats because this seemingly ordinary dime could be worth an astounding $47,000. That's right, a single dime worth $47,000. How's that for a jackpot? Stick with me as we uncover the fascinating story behind this valuable coin. Host holds up a 1965 dime, showing it to the camera with an excited grin. Host, so, let's dive into what makes this 1965 dime so special and why it might just be sitting in your pocket or your coin collection waiting to make you rich. Cut to a historical montage of the 1960s, scenes of political events, pop culture, and the economy. Host, before we get into the specifics of why this coin could be worth a fortune, let's take a look back at 1965. The United States was undergoing a lot of changes. The country was in the middle of the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War was escalating, and the economy was experiencing some major shifts. In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson was in office, and the country was at the crossroads of modern history. Cut to close-up of the 1965 dime, focusing on Franklin D. Roosevelt's image. Host, the dime you're looking at today was minted as part of the ongoing series that honors Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. Roosevelt's image was designed by John R. Sinek and first appeared on the dime in 1946. By 1965, this design was still going strong. But while the design itself remained the same, there was something about the 1965 dimes that would make them stand out in the world of numismatics. Camera zooms in on the 1965 dime, with a magnifying glass placed on top to highlight its details. Host, so, what makes the 1965 dime special? Well, here's the twist: mint errors. You see, most 1965 dimes were struck as usual. They have Roosevelt's image on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. But a small number of 1,965 dimes were struck with a major error, and I'm talking about a misstrike that caused the coin to have an off-center design. Cut to an animation showing how a coin can be struck off-center during the minting process. Host, normally, coins are struck with a very precise design on both sides, but sometimes a malfunction in the machinery or a slight misalignment can cause the design to be off-center. In the case of the 1965 dime, some coins were struck in such a way that the design was visibly misaligned, giving the coin an irregular appearance. Cut to a coin expert using a loupe to examine a misstruck 1965 dime. Host, now, you might be asking yourself, why is an off-center strike such a big deal? Well, the rarity of this error is what drives up the value. While mint errors happen from time to time, off-center strikes like this one are incredibly hard to find. Think about it, for every coin that was struck incorrectly, thousands of others were minted perfectly. So finding one of these misstruck 1965 dimes is like finding a hidden treasure. Host holds up a normal 1965 dime with a perfect strike and compares it to the misstruck 1965 dime. Host, most dimes you find will have a perfectly centered design, but an off-center strike is a true anomaly. This makes the coin highly sought after by collectors. The more noticeable the misstrike, the more valuable the coin. And if the coin is in excellent condition, you could be holding onto something really special. Cut to footage of an enthusiastic coin auction where bidders are raising their paddles. Host, collectors are always on the lookout for error coins, and the demand for these types of coins is incredibly high. When a 1965 dime with an off-center strike appears on the market, collectors go crazy. These types of error coins are highly prized because they're so rare. They're not just about owning a coin, it's about owning a piece of history with a story behind it. Host holds up an example of a graded 1965 misstruck dime inside a protective case. Host, a coin like this, especially one that's been professionally graded and is in excellent condition, can fetch an eye-popping price at auction. But that's not all. If your 1965 dime has additional characteristics, such as being in uncirculated condition or having an even more extreme misstrike, the value could go through the roof. Camera cuts to a close-up of a coin auction where the bidding begins for a 1965 misstruck dime. Host, so, you're probably wondering, how much can a 1965 misstruck dime be worth? Well, depending on the condition and severity of the misstrike, the value can vary, but we're talking big money here. Host gives a sly smile and leans in closer to the camera. Host, let me tell you, if you happen to have a well-preserved, off-center 1965 dime in your collection, you could be looking at a coin worth $47,000. Yes, that's $47,000 for a single dime. It's absolutely incredible how something so small and seemingly insignificant could hold such a huge value. Cut to a tutorial scene where the host demonstrates how to identify a misstruck 1965 dime. Host, so, how can you identify a misstruck 1965 dime? First, check the design. Look at the obverse side. If Roosevelt's portrait is shifted to one side or if the lettering around the coin is distorted, then you may have an off-center strike. The more the design is off-center, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Host shows a close-up of a misstruck 1965 dime. Host, make sure the coin is in good condition. Coins with more wear and tear will be worth less. A well-preserved, off-center coin is the real jackpot. Cut to the host sorting through a collection of coins, closely inspecting each one. Host, you never know what treasures you might find in your coin collection. Even if you've got a jar of old dimes or a box of random change, it's worth taking the time to check for errors. The 1965 misstruck dime is just one example of how a small mistake can turn into a big payoff. Host stands with a 1965 misstruck dime displayed in a protective case. Host, that wraps up today's treasure hunt, folks. If you have a 1965 dime, be sure to check it carefully. It could be worth $47,000, now that's one heck of a return on a 10-cent investment. Today, we've got an exciting discovery that might just be sitting in your pocket or hidden in your coin jar. Yes, we're talking about the 1974 US dime, a coin that most people overlook. But here's the twist, this coin could be worth a jaw-dropping $54,000. That's right, $54,000 for a dime. Stick around to find out what makes this coin so rare and valuable, and how you might have one waiting to make you rich. Host holds up a 1974 dime, showing it to the camera with a big smile. Host, let's dive into why the 1974 dime isn't just another coin, and how it could turn your coin collection into a small fortune. Cut to a montage of 1970s footage, scenes of the economy, pop culture, and political events. Host, before we get into the specifics of why this dime is worth so much, let's first take a look back at the year 1974. The 1970s were a time of economic struggle, political upheaval, and technological progress. The U.S. was coming off the tail end of the Vietnam War, and President Richard Nixon was embroiled in the Watergate scandal, leading to his resignation in August of 1974. Cut to a close-up of the 1974 dime, focusing on the iconic image of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Host, now, as for the dime itself, this one features Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, whose image has been gracing the dime since 1946. Designed by John R. Sinek, the Roosevelt dime has been part of U.S. coinage for decades. But the 1974 version has something unique about it, something rare and valuable that makes it a must-have for serious collectors. Camera zooms in on the 1974 dime, with a magnifying glass to examine the details. Host, so, what's the big deal about the 1974 dime? It's all about a mint error that makes certain 1974 dimes incredibly valuable. Some of these coins were struck with an extremely rare double die error. Cut to an animation showing how a double die error happens during the minting process. Host, a double die error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die, usually due to a misalignment or malfunction at the mint. This causes the design to appear doubled or blurred, especially on certain parts of the coin like the lettering, date, or even the portrait. The 1974 dime with this error is particularly sought after because the doubling is visible in the date and the lettering around Roosevelt's portrait. Host holds up a close-up image of a 1974 dime with the double die error, zooming in on the doubled 1974 and Liberty inscriptions. Host, can you see it? The date 1974 and the word Liberty are noticeably doubled, giving this coin a unique and very distinct look. This error is so rare that it makes the coin a true collector's gem. Cut to a scene of a coin expert using a loupe to carefully examine the 1974 dime. Host: now, you might be asking, why is this double die-for so special? Well, errors like this don't happen every day. In fact, they are incredibly rare. Most coins are struck perfectly and without any flaws, but sometimes a small mistake in the minting process can create a coin that is completely unique, like this one. Host compares a normal 1974 dime with the double die-for dime. Host: as you can see, this is not just a minor variation. The doubling is very clear and obvious. This makes the 1974 dime with the double die-for extremely valuable, so valuable, in fact, that these coins can sell for thousands of dollars at auction. Cut to footage of a bustling coin auction with collectors enthusiastically bidding. Host: why do collectors care so much about error coins? The answer is simple: rarity and demand. Error coins, especially those with visible and dramatic mistakes like the 1974 double die dime, are highly sought after. Collectors love them because they're one of a kind, and having a piece of history like this is a true treasure. Host holds up a graded 1974 double die-for dime inside a protective case. Host: and if you happen to own a 1974 double die-for dime in pristine condition, it could fetch a small fortune at auction. The higher the quality of the coin, meaning how well it's been preserved, the higher its value. The camera cuts to an auctioneer calling for bids, as a 1974 dime with a double die-for is displayed. Host: so, just how much could your 1974 dime be worth if you have one with that elusive double die-for? Well, depending on its condition, it could be worth a lot more than you might think. For example, a well-preserved 1974 double die dime can sell for as much as $54,000, yes, that's $54,000 for a single dime. Host holds up the 1974 double die-for dime, smiling excitedly. Host: that's an absolutely huge return on an original 10-cent coin. Just imagine, you could find this rare error coin in a box of old coins, and if it's in great condition, you might be sitting on a literal gold mine. Cut to a tutorial scene where the host demonstrates how to spot the double die-for on the 1974 dime. Host: if you're wondering how to identify a 1974 dime with the double die-for, here's a simple way to check. First, take a close look at the date and the word Liberty on the coin. If you notice that the numbers and letters seem to be doubled, then you may have a winner. The doubling effect is usually easiest to spot on the date and lettering around Roosevelt's portrait. Host zooms in on a 1974 dime with a magnifying glass. Host: also, be sure to inspect the overall condition of the coin. Dimes that have been kept in good condition, with little to no wear, will be worth much more than worn coins. So always handle your coins with care, and keep them in a safe, protected space. Cut to the host carefully sorting through a jar of mixed coins, inspecting each one. Host: coin collecting is all about finding hidden treasures, and that's exactly why you should always check your collection. Even if you've got a bunch of coins sitting around in a drawer or an old tin can, take a few minutes to examine them. You never know, you might find a rare gem like the 1974 double die-for dime just waiting to make you rich. Host stands, holding up the 1974 double die-for dime in a protective case, smiling. Host: well, that's it for today's coin treasure hunt. If you have a 1974 dime, be sure to take a close look at the date and lettering. If you find that double die-for, you could have a coin worth $54,000. Now that's what I call a great investment. Today, we have something absolutely mind-blowing to talk about, a coin that most people probably wouldn't think twice about, but could actually be worth a staggering $58,000. That's right, the 2003 US dime. You won't believe how much it's worth, so stick around as we uncover the hidden value behind this seemingly ordinary coin. Host holds up a 2003 dime to the camera, showing it off with a grin. Host: now, I know what you're thinking, a dime? That's just 10 cents. But trust me, there's much more to the story than meets the eye. Let's dive in and see what makes the 2003 US dime so incredibly valuable. Cut to a nostalgic montage of early 2000s American life, with scenes from pop culture, politics, and significant events from the time. Host, before we get into the exciting details about this dime, let's take a moment to look back at the year 2003. The early 2000s were a time of change for America. While the country was still recovering from the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, the economy was rebounding, and technology was advancing at an exponential rate. It was also the year when the U.S. Mint issued the 2003 dime, a coin that would turn out to be far more than just a common piece of currency. Close-up of the 2003 dime, showing Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse side. Host, as always, the 2003 dime features Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front, designed by John R. Sinek. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, continues to grace this coin as a tribute to his leadership and vision. The reverse design of the coin shows a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. Camera zooms in on a magnifying glass placed over a 2003 dime, showing fine details. Host, so, here's the big question: what makes the 2003 US dime so valuable? Well, like many rare coins, its worth comes from an extremely rare minting error. A small percentage of 2003 dimes were struck with a die crack error, which is what makes this coin so special. Cut to an animation showing how a die crack error happens during the minting process. Host, a die crack error occurs when there's a small crack in the die used to strike the coin. This crack can cause a portion of the design to appear in an unusual way, sometimes creating raised lines or extra design elements that shouldn't be there. In the case of the 2003 dime, the die crack appeared near the rim of the coin, causing a unique and distinct feature that sets it apart from a regular dime. Host shows a close-up of the 2003 dime with the die crack visible. Host, take a look at this. You can see the die crack running along the edge of the coin, and this is the key feature that makes it so valuable. This is not something you'll find on every 2003 dime. Only a few coins were affected by this error. Cut to a scene where a coin expert is using a loupe to closely examine the die crack on the 2003 dime. Host, now, you might be wondering, why does this die crack make the coin so valuable? The reason is simple: rarity and uniqueness. Die cracks aren't very common, and when they do occur, they often create small, subtle errors that don't always make the coin more valuable. But in the case of the 2003 dime, this particular die crack is large enough and clear enough to make the coin stand out. And because only a small number of these coins were produced with this error, the demand for them is incredibly high among collectors. Host compares a regular 2003 dime to one with the die crack error. Host, see the difference? While most 2003 dimes are in perfect condition, coins with this error are much rarer, and that rarity drives the price up significantly. Cut to footage of a coin auction with enthusiastic collectors bidding. Host, when it comes to error coins, collectors are always on the lookout for the rarest and most distinctive examples. The 2003 dime with the die crack is exactly the kind of coin that collectors dream of finding. And because these coins are so rare, they're often sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Host holds up a graded 2003 dime with the die crack error in a protective case. Host, coins like these are highly sought after by both amateur and professional collectors. In fact, a dime with a die crack error, especially one in uncirculated or pristine condition, can fetch incredible amounts at auction. If you happen to come across one of these dimes, make sure to check its condition and get it professionally graded. Cut to a dramatic scene of an auctioneer announcing the price of a 2003 dime with a die crack error. Host, so, how much is your 2003 dime with the die crack error worth? Well, depending on its condition, it can be worth a lot more than just 10 cents. In fact, a high-quality, well-preserved 2003 dime with this error could sell for an astonishing $58,000, yes, $58,000. Host holds up the 2003 dime, smiling in excitement. Host, that's right, $58,000 for a dime that originally had a value of just 10 cents. When you find a rare coin like this, it's not just a piece of currency, it's an investment. Cut to a tutorial scene where the host shows viewers how to identify the die crack error on a 2003 dime. Host: now, if you're wondering how to identify the 2003 dime with the die crack error, it's pretty simple. Start by examining the coin closely, especially the edge and rim. The die crack will appear as a raised line or series of lines along the rim of the coin, near the design. You might also notice some irregularities in the details around Roosevelt's portrait or the reverse design. Host zooms in with a magnifying glass, showing the die crack on the coin. Host: make sure to look for any other visible cracks or distortions around the lettering, as these could also signal that you found an error coin. If you find one in pristine condition, you might have just stumbled upon a rare treasure. Cut to the host carefully sorting through a collection of old coins, examining them one by one. Host: coin collecting is all about finding those hidden treasures, and you never know where you'll find them. Whether it's in a box of old coins, a jar of spare change, or even a forgotten stash from years ago, always take the time to look through your collection. You might have a coin just like the 2003 dime with the die crack error waiting for you to discover it. Host stands, holding up a 2003 dime in a protective display case, smiling brightly. Host: and that's a wrap for today's coin treasure hunt. If you have a 2003 dime, be sure to check for that die crack error. It could be worth an unbelievable $58,000. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future coin discoveries. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting. End screen with channel logo and social media links.